Hi, this is Adam, and you're listening to CIDI 99.1 FM.
Hi, I'm Robin Badger, and you're listening to CIDI 99.1 FM.
So if you could tell us a little bit about your history and your uprising, that would be wonderful.
Well, I fell in love with pottery when I was a teenager through I did a workshop with a cousin of my mom who's a potter, and I just fell right in love with it. And I tried to do a different, sort of more normal path, went to CEGEP and tried to go to university, figure out what I wanted to be, but none of that was really working for me, so I ended up dropping out and coming back to the townships and apprenticing with a potter there, long enough to know that this is really, really striking a chord with me and something that I felt I really wanted to pursue. So after that, I enrolled in a 1-year intensive pottery course in Old Montreal, and where I learned about a whole variety of things, not just pottery on the wheel, but sculpting, hand building. It was, a 1-year intensive class. And at the same time, that's where I met my true love, Robert Chartier. He was also there to learn pottery. And we quickly moved in together, had a studio right in our home while we were still finishing the school. He was a bit older than me and had spent a long time in already the artisan world, so he had a friend who was a potter, and we ended up renting a house from her, and she lived next door, so we ended up being her apprentices the whole time we were finishing our schooling, because schooling is great, but you really need hands-on work with someone to, if you want to know what you're doing. So we've had a studio ever since, and we did odd jobs at first, of course, like to make ends meet and so on, but we've been making our living entirely out of pottery for the last, I want to say, almost 20 years now, so.
Awesome.
That's how it started. Yeah.
That's super cool. And so, would you say that pottery obviously is your main art form, but do you dabble in anything else?
Maybe 10 years ago now, I started to do a fine art degree because I didn't go to university. So I felt like I'd done pottery for a long time, and then I felt I wanted to broaden my artistic sort of background. So I did a fine art degree where I was able to do all kinds of other things, printmaking, sculpture, painting, drawing, all of the art history, all of the things. So that really broadened my scope, and I've used those learnings in my pottery as well. So I've started recently doing sculpture, and I've started etching onto some pieces as well using the drawing, but my main focus really on the wheel, shaping pots with my hands. So that's my first love.
And would you say that you attribute any meaning to your art or pottery? Is there any meaning behind it?
Well, the meaning to me is really about bringing beauty and meaning to the meals that we eat, because we eat 3 times a day, right? Usually, if we're lucky, and we're lucky here, so we eat often. So it's about bringing a mindfulness to sitting around the table, sharing a meal, preparing something, eating it. What vessel you're going to use to do that with is sort of where I come in, is to offer people different pieces to eat every day. So it's about bringing a little bit of joy and beauty to an everyday activity, not just the once a year special occasion. It's with your everyday life. That's where I like to be.
I like that. That's really interesting, actually. I've never even thought of it that way. And we take, honestly, I personally take 3 meals per day for granted sometimes even, so. And so why would you say you chose this form of art instead of another?
I guess when I started, I never even felt I was that artistic. All through school, I'm not that good at drawing or all the other art. I never thought myself as an artist. And so when I fell into pottery, I just loved making things. And I'd always liked making all kinds of things with my hands, anything. So I guess it's really just the forming of the pieces and that connection with the clay that speaks to me. When you're throwing a pot, it really works on your whole mental and psychic and physical and energetic self, because you have to be completely concentrated to do it. You can't be thinking about any other thing. So it's a sort of like a working meditation in a way. It's very calming, and so even if I start work and I'm a bit tired, the act of making the pottery, I finish and I might be a bit physically tired, but I'm re-energized like in myself. So it just, it works for me in so many levels.
And would you say you have a favorite piece of art that you've created?
In the pottery part?
In the pottery part, or really anywhere, as it does speak to you on a, I guess on a different level, on an emotional level.
Well, on an emotional level, I guess I want to say from the pottery part, the big serving bowls are where I really, really am happy with, because it takes a lot of dexterity to get to make a big bowl that's also light and perfectly balanced and with a little, I like to just do a fine detail, nothing too busy. So there's some pieces like that I really feel great about, like just, you know, the technical part is there and the beauty is there. And plus, as I explained before, the act of people gathering around a table, having this big salad, or, you know, it's for people to share together. So that's really great. In the sculpture part, I've just started, you know, showing some of my sculptural work. So that's new for me. And what I enjoy about that is it's coming from definitely more of a fine arts kind of lens, where there's an idea behind the sculpture. It's not just for beauty. It's sort of portraying a bit of an idea. So there's one that I've just finished, and I still have to mount it on its base and whatnot. But it's a person sort of in a bit of a cage, and she's there and she's stretching out her leg. And the idea is that you're stepping out of your comfort zone. So she's stretching out her leg, testing the waters of this sort of self-made sort of cage, because we're always, you know, pushing our own boundaries. So that's kind of the idea behind that one. And so that's really fun for me, because I'll have an idea and I'll manifest it from my thinking into a concrete 3D sort of image, and then play with what happens, because you start with an idea and then you're faced with what's in front of you, and then it's a conversation, you know. And so that's fun, because it's a one-off thing. It's a one idea into one form, and then it's done, and there's room for something new. Whereas in the pottery part, there's a bit of, you know, small series repetition, which I also enjoy, because you really fine-tune your skills. So both are fun.
And generally, do you have any other artists that inspire you, or is it more of a feeling that inspires you while creating?
Different artists inspire me, and I think what really inspires me is when an artist is true to themselves. So it can be in any discipline, in any medium, but I really am inspired by artists who are maybe a bit off the beaten track, or apart from a common sort of aesthetic, but really it's true to them, and that resonates with me.
Beautiful. I agree.
There you go.
And so, would you say that you have a favorite failure of yours, whether that's sculpting work or pottery?
Yeah, I do have a favorite failure, actually. Because often your failures point the way to something else. And this was many, many years ago. I was throwing a vase. I was trimming the vase, actually, which is like a second step. Anyway, and it flew off the wheel, and it crashed against the side of the table, and it made a big dent in it, but it was so beautiful. It was just this movement, this motion. It was just like right through the vase, and I was like, just, wow, that's amazing. I could never have done that if I wanted. So I fired it through, and I glazed it and everything, and I put it just on a shelf, not even in my showroom, you know, just on a shelf, because I was really wanting to look at it and try to see what I could do with that. And someone walked in and said, "Oh, is that for sale?" And I kind of said yes, because everything's for sale, you know, got to buy your groceries and everything. And they said, "Great, I'll take it." And I sold it. And I was like so heartbroken after. I was like, oh, I should never have sold that. It was just so perfect. And so I tried to recreate it, and I was never able to. It was really just that motion of it flying off onto the edge that created the mark. Anyway, but still, it got me thinking about altering pottery, making marks in pottery, how the energy of the gesture goes much farther than just the visual, you know, like there's really an energy that's portrayed in the form. So that was a real breakthrough to me.
A
literal spur of the moment.
You could say.
Yeah, exactly. Because often in pottery, you're trying to make things perfectly round, and that's kind of your goal, is to be able to master your clay. But on purpose, I like the idea of being able to master it perfectly and then on purpose alter it. So that to me is a nice thought process.
What advice, if any, would you give anybody trying to get into the same career path as you?
The same advice I give to anyone about anything: just go for it and put in the time. And it's not going to be easy, but anything worthwhile is never easy. And even if you're working 2 jobs on the side, like, just make time for it in your life. Make it a priority. You just have to make the things. You just have to do it. It's not going to come to you. You're going to have to go after it. And day after day, week after week, year after year, you have to build it, And I guess my advice is to do something that feeds you, feeds you. So that's my advice.
Really good. And what advice should they ignore?
Good question. I think if you want to follow your own path and draw that own path for yourself, it's really to listen to your own intuition and instinct. And so I guess my advice would be not to follow necessarily market trends or Instagram trends, or to do things just for publicity, or to do things for a quick money, or really try to be grounded in your process and in doing things that resonate with you, as opposed to try to please everyone, because you'll never please everyone.
Speaking about trends, how do you feel the industry you're in will evolve in the upcoming years?
I've been a potter, so self-employed, for 30 years now. So I've seen lots of different trends come and go. And I think the idea is to embrace change. And as soon as you embrace the fact that whatever is happening now is going to change, then that change happens much more easily. Whereas if you're stuck in, well, no, I've always done it this way, it's always worked for me, I don't want to change, then you're not going to evolve, because it just keeps evolving. Like even now, all the internet sales and online sales and Instagram, I was really nervous about starting that because it's not in my age group, and it's not something that I was familiar with. But I eventually embraced it, and it's just been amazing for me. I've got so many people that I connect with now all over the world through the social media. And people order from me. I can do it all online, especially with COVID. That's been like a lifesaver for us. But the idea is to embrace the change. So I don't know where the future is going, but I know I'm going to embrace it. So that's it.
So speaking about COVID-19, how has it affected your artistic life, positively, negatively, if any way?
It's actually been pretty positive for me, because it helped me make changes that I would have been nervous to make. We used to have a school, like a lot of students, so we closed that down, of course, and put a big push onto the online sales and whatnot. But doing all of that, like, I was a bit nervous about the financial aspect, because it's a big change, but it worked out great, and it's freed up a lot more time for our own personal production and artistic path. So it was actually a plus in the long run. I mean, I love doing the classes. I did it for 15 years. I still have some students that I do coaching with, because I love getting other people into clay and being able to make pottery and so on. But I'm past, I think, the place where I want to have a class, 3 days a week with students in the studio. So it's just a shift, and I guess I was more ready for that shift than I thought. So it's been positive for me.
I'm happy to hear. And so that's going to lead us into a couple of, I guess, more personal questions. When you feel overwhelmed or out of the zone, do you have a ritual you tend to do, or anything that helps you get back into it?
There's different things I like to do. I like to walk outside in the woods. That helps to, bring back a nice perspective. I like to work things out on paper. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed, it's usually because I have too much work and not enough time. So then I like to just, parcel that out into what is feasible for me and what I can do. And so I parcel that out into like a weekly sort of structure. Instead of saying, oh, I have all this to do in 6 months, then I could break it all down. I can say, this is what I have to do this week. And it helps me get my head around that. But to get into the drive of like producing, I just have to make my list of what I want to make this week. You know, I start like, oh, 12 wool bowls and this and that. And oh, I want to throw in some big salad bowls. And as soon as I make my list of what I want to make this week, I'm raring to go. Like, I can't wait to get my hands in the clay and like actually get that from paper into physical 3D. So
Awesome. And so how frequently would you say you practice your art?
every day.
Every day.
Trying to take a day off now. This is new.
Taking a day off is tough.
It is hard. It really is. But we're trying to push ourselves to do that because it's really fulfilling to go out. I mean, COVID, you don't go places, but just to change your space. We like to walk a lot outside, but we'll go now to other places to walk in other places, not just on our own property, and you know, just change it up a bit. And it's good. You come back refreshed with new ideas. And
how do you determine what you're going to work on next?
it's a fine line between what people have ordered, because we have a certain amount of orders. We have our online sales, so what people have actually purchased as well. And another section in our production is for inventory, to build up inventory for, say, the Tool des Arts or the summer season or the Christmas market, things like that. And through all that, we try to keep a space open for creativity. So it used to be that I used to think if I got all my orders done, then I could make a creative piece. But that never seemed to happen. You're never done all the orders and the other obligations. So now we've worked into a weekly kind of space where every week, no matter what is not done, there's going to be creativity in that space. So that's good.
And so at the end of the day, what would you like your art or your message to be? What message are you trying to share with the world?
As I kind of mentioned earlier, I'm trying to share with the world that mindfulness of being in the moment. You're drinking your coffee in the bowl, and without even realizing, you're feeling that beautiful balance of the bowl, the weight, the feel, the finesse of it. There's a little bit of me in every piece that I make, you know, so it's just more of a connecting with yourself and what you're doing. Being in the moment is, I guess, my message through pottery, you know.
And so what's next for you? Do you have any projects on the way? Do you have anything upcoming that we should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, well, definitely the sculpture is a big thing for me. So you'll be seeing more of that in the next few years for sure.
So where can we find you and your work?
Well, I'm easy to find because it's all based around my name, which is Robin Badger. So the website is robinbadger.com, and the Facebook and the Instagram is Robin Badger Pottery. So easy to find. I have a studio in West Bolton, and people from around here know it pretty well. And I guess the comment I would say is that I really want to just thank the community, because the community, you know, got me going, and it's still the community that sustains me, like the actual local community of people coming out and ordering things, and the online community as well, that is just keeping me going. So thank you to all of you guys.
So thank you so much for watching Artist of the Week. My name is Adam. This is CIDI 99.1 FM, and our guest this week was Robin Badger. Thank you so much, Robin.
Well, thank you, Adam.